Hello everyone. Welcome back to the course of Software Architecture and Design Patterns. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions in association with Redefined Solutions. This is Arvind Egreddy from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering and CEO Redefined Solutions. In this video, we will discuss about building system from off-the-shelf components and software architecture in future. Now coming to the first topic, that is building system from off-the-shelf components. Now let us consider the following situation that we are producing a software to control the chemical plant. So within the chemical plants, specialized displays keep the operator informed as the state of the reactions being controlled. A large portion of the software we are constructing is used to draw those displays. Here a vendor sells user interface controls that produce them because it is easier to buy than build. So we decide to purchase the controls, which by the way are only available for Visual Basic. So what impact does this decision have on our architecture? Either the whole system must be written in the Visual Basic with the built-in callback centered style, or operator portion must be isolated from the rest of the system in some fashion. So here the systems that are being constructed with more and more off-the-shelf components for economic reasons and because the expertise needed in many technical areas is so specialized. So quality attributes can be maintained in a system even if that system is largely integrated from the off-shelf components whose design and interaction mechanisms are not under the architecture. So here the requirement process needs to be more flexible, allowing the availability in the marketplace to modify the requirements to provide the better overall business solution. So this is the fundamental structure decision which is being driven by the choice of single component for a single portion of the system. So for systems built from off-the-shelf OTS components, component selection involves a discovery process which seeks to identify assemblies of compatible components. So the use of off-the-shelf components in software development, while essential in many cases, also introduce new challenges. So in particular, the component capabilities and liberties are a principal architectural constraint. All but the simplest components have a pre-assumed architecture pattern that is difficult to violate. For example, an HTTP server assumes a client-server architecture pattern which is with defined interfaces and mechanisms for integrated backend functionality. If the architecture we design conflicts with the architecture that is being assumed by an HTTP server components, we may find ourselves with an exponentially difficult integration tasks. So a prototype situated in the specific design context is called as an model solution. A model problem may have any number of model solutions depending on the severity of risk inherited in the design context and on the success of the model solution in addressing it. So here the model problems are normally used to design the team's optimality. The design team consists of an architect who is a technical lead on the project and makes the principal design decisions, as well as the number of designers or engineers who may implement a model solution for the model problem. An illustration of the model problem workflow is shown in this particular figure. And here the process consists of the 6 steps that can be executed in sequence. So now let us see the following 6 steps that can be executed in sequence. Here the first step, the architect and the engineers, they identify the design question. The design question which initiates the model problem, referring to an unknown that is expressed as an hypothesis. The architect and the engineers define the starting evaluation criteria. The criteria describes how the model solution will support the or contradict the hypothesis. Third, the architect and the engineers, they define the implementation constraints. The implementation constraints specify the fixed part of the design context that govern the implementation of the model solution. So these constraints might include such things as platform requirements, component versions, and business rules. And fourth step, the engineers produce a model solution situated in the design context. The model solution is a minimal application that uses only the features of the component which are necessary to support or contradict the hypothesis. And in the fifth step, the engineers identify ending evaluation criteria. Ending evaluation criteria, which includes the starting set plus criteria that are discovered as byproduct of implementing the model solution. And in the last step, that is a sixth step, the architecture performs an evaluation of the model solution against the end criteria also. So here the evaluation may result in the design solution which is being rejected or adopted, but often leads to new design questions that must be resolved in the similar fashion. Now coming to the software architecture in future, the history of the programming can be viewed as a success of every increasing facility for the expressing the complex functionality. So in the beginning, assembly language offered the most elementary of the abstractions, exactly where in the physical memory things reside, and the machine code necessary to perform the primitive arithmetic and move operations. In 1970s, we saw a concern with the structuring of programming to achieve the quality beyond the correct function. Data flow analysis, entity relationship diagrams, information hiding, and other principles or techniques form the basis for the myriad design methodologies. So each of which led to the creation of subroutines or collections of them whose functionalities could be rationalized in terms of developing the qualities. So these elements were usually called as modules. Whereas in the 1980s, the module-based programming language, information hiding and associated methodologies crystallized into the concept of objects. So here the objects became the components due with inheritance, adding a new kind of connector. In the 1990s, standard object-based architecture in the form of frameworks started appearing. So here objects has given us a standard vocabulary for the elements and have led to the new infrastructure for writing the collection of elements together. Abstractions have grown more powerful along the way, and we now have computing platform in our homes that let us treat the complex entities such as spreadsheets, documents, graphical images, audio clips, and database as interchangeable black box objects that can be blithely inserted into the instances of each object. So here the architecture places the emphasis above the individual elements and on the arrangement of the elements and their interactions. So in this kind of abstraction, away from the focus on the individual elements that makes such breathtaking interoperable possible. In the current decade, we see the rise of middleware and IT architecture as the standard platform. So here the purchased elements have security, reliability and performance support services that a decade ago had to be added by the individual project developers. So we summarize this discussion in the figure which is aside. So here this is where we are today. So there is no reason to think that the thread towards the larger and more powerful abstractions will not continue. So already there are early generators for the systems as complex and damaging as a database management and avionics. And a generator for the domain is the first sign that the spiral of the programming language power for the domain is about to start another upward cycle. So the phrase system of the systems is starting to be heard more commonly, suggesting an emphasis on the system interoperability and signaling another jump in the abstraction power. That's all for now. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for the latest notifications. Thanks for watching the video till the end. Thank you one and all.